Hello, welcome back to Personality City's YouTube channel. My name is Jenna, and today we're going to be talking about the difference between introverted sensing and extroverted sensing. Now, if you're not already familiar with cognitive function, then I would invite you to watch my Introduction to Cognitive Functions video, just to give you a good overview about what those are and what yours might be based on your Myers-Briggs type. But if you found this video and you are kind of between certain sensing types, this will be a super great introduction to help you realize whether you are an introverted sensor or an extroverted sensor. So for both types, for both cognitive functions, we're going to look at 4 personality types, 2 of which will be dominant with that cognitive function, and 2 of which will be auxiliary with that cognitive function. So for introverted sensors, our dominant introverted sensors are going to be ISFJs and ISTJs. So those 2 have dominant introverted sensing in their cognitive function stack. The 2 that have auxiliary, or their secondary function is introverted sensing, are going to be ESFJs and ESTJs. So those are all 4 of our introverted sensing of the Myers-Briggs types. So we also have our 4 extroverted sensors, and 2 are going to be dominant with extroverted sensing. Those are going to be ESFPs and ESTPs. So those 2 have dominant extroverted sensing. We also have our auxiliary and extroverted sensors, and those are going to be ISFPs and ISTPs. So all 4 of those types can be considered an extroverted sensor, since it is either their dominant or their auxiliary cognitive function. So now we're going to get into the differences between the 2 and 10 signs that you might be either an introverted sensor or an extroverted sensor. 10 signs that you might be an introverted sensor. Sign number 1 is that you enjoy reliving past experiences. So introverted sensors are all about what has happened in the past. They're actually living in the world of their past experiences, and they really love reliving the past. So you will find an introverted sensor very often retelling with detail, incredible detail and accuracy, certain events that have happened to them in the past, and they will often relive the emotions and exactly how they felt when they were in that certain situation with very, very startling accuracy because of how deeply they were impacted by that experience. Sign number 2 that you're an introverted sensor is that you learn very quickly from your mistakes. So because you're taking all of this input in from your past experiences, you're actually logging this information very thoroughly within your internal landscape. So when you make a mistake, you'll actually pick that up and log that in your internal landscape. So introverted sensors, I kind of like to compare to elephants, just in the term that elephants never forget. The same is true for introverted sensors, is that they will never forget something that happens to them. So they're unlikely to repeat a mistake if it isn't benefiting them in some way. If they're finding value, or if someone else from the outside world determines or thinks that they're making a mistake, that isn't the same thing as when they believe that they are making a mistake. So someone else looking in on an introverted sensor's life thinking, well, they seem to be repeating all of these mistakes. If they're receiving some kind of benefit in their life from doing that thing, they're going to repeatedly do it. But if they are receiving no benefit and they are receiving negative impact and a negative impact from that thing, then they are very unlikely to repeat that thing. Sign number 3 that you're an introverted sensor is that you notice when something is off. And by off, I mean within your environment. So because you're picking up on all of these cues and you're logging them in a very permanent place within your internal landscape, when something is off within someone else, within their life, within input that you normally receive, within a day that you normally live, because you're so in tune with how things have been, when something is off from what it has been, you are very prone to pick that thing up. You may not be able to tell exactly what it is, but you notice that something is off now from what it used to be. Sign number 4 that you're an introverted sensor is that you trust facts over inspiration. So because you live in the very real and tangible world, you will trust facts high and above inspiration that someone might have. So when you receive this input from your environment, you're looking at what is actually real, what is objective, what is true, what is tangible, what is verifiable, and what is sensible. So you're looking at all of this input and you're highly valuing that. For something that is a little bit more abstract or subjective or creative or has to do with a personal internal experience rather than a lived, tangible experience, you're going to kind of question the validity of that thing because you can't test it over time in the real world. Sign number 5 that you're an introverted sensor is that you probably have a good sense of humor. Now, this is kind of a stereotype that goes along with introverted sensors, but by and large, it typically does run true. And that is because as they're picking up all of these patterns of how things have been, they're also logging what makes people laugh. So they're really good at replicating senses of humor or jokes or things that really help the other person feel comfortable. So they're really skilled at picking up on those things and catering to the people within and the personalities within their environment. They just don't realize particularly that they're doing that, but because they're picking up on all of these patterns, they're going to replicate it. They're going to remember what it is that made someone amused or entertained, and they're very good at replicating that within future scenarios. Sign number 6 that you're an introverted sensor is that you are comfortable with and you highly honor tradition. So introverted sensors, because they're so in tune with the past, they will see how traditions have really honored people from one time to another time and how they bring what was valuable from back then to the present. So they will feel very comfortable with maintaining traditions, certain family traditions or community traditions, and they will often be the ones to either spearhead that, to keep it going, to encourage it within the future because they see how valuable it has been from carrying all of these meanings and messages from the past to the present. Sign number 7 that you're an introverted sensor is that you pay attention to detail. So just as you're living in the very tangible real world and you're taking all of these past experiences and they're helping to inform you on what to do in the present and what you should be doing in the future, you are paying attention to the details of your environment. So just like point number 2 or sign number 2 that you're an introverted sensor, that you learn very quickly from your mistakes, that will be very true in the tangible real world. So certain things that are very detail oriented, such as certain hobbies, certain paperwork or administrative tasks, you will be very prone to watch the details because you remembered exactly what it felt like when you missed out on that thing in the past, and you're not prone to repeat a mistake like that. So because of that, because of your tremendous memory, you will be very prone to picking up on small details that other people would most likely miss. Sign number 8 that you're an introverted sensor is that you are often very resourceful. So because you learn from your mistakes quickly and you pick up on all of this input from your tangible, real, lived experiences, you will also need and remember what you needed within those certain experiences and what is going to help you have your needs met in the future so that you don't have to be in a place where you're improvising or where you're having to act like on the fly or in the present moment. You prefer not to live that way. You prefer to be prepared. So because of this high value of preparedness, you are actually going to be very resourceful and able to have everything you need within your given either home environment or work environment, and you will help encourage other people to be resourceful as well, to pick up on all the things that they need within their environment and to be sure that they're able to access them in a very easy way. Sign number 9 that you're an introverted sensor is that you dislike being pushed outside of your comfort zone. So because you feel very comfortable with tradition and with how things have been lived in the past and you like to replicate that in the future, you're very prone to sticking to routines and to maximize and utilize your full routine to its full potential. You'll feel very comfortable with routines and you'll want to maintain them. So when you're pushed outside of your comfort zone, either forced to do something that that isn't in your normal wheelhouse, isn't in your normal strengths, something that requires improvisation, you will feel very uncomfortable within that space because you want to have that vast knowledge of past feedback to draw from in order to help you in the present moment. If you don't have that storehouse of information, you're going to feel like you're lacking, and you might feel that you'll be either considered incompetent or anything like that that might make you feel insecure. So you feel very, very insecure when you're pushed outside of your comfort zone and would prefer to stay within things that you are familiar with. Sign number 10 that you're an introverted sensor is that you compare and contrast a lot. So because you're looking at the past and you're comparing that with the future, you're looking at how traditions have been with how traditions have been carried over, you're gonna actually compare and contrast very normally and very often within your life. So this will take place whether it is an event or whether it is a specific person. You're going to compare people and things and events and products to how they have been in the past. So you're very skilled at comparing and contrasting, and you bring that into your normal conversation in your everyday life. Now that we've gone into all 10 signs that you are an introverted sensor, now we're going to move on to the 10 signs that you might be an extroverted sensor. Sign number 1 that you are an extroverted sensor is that you make verbal observations about the world around you. So extroverted sensors, unlike introverted sensors who are living in the world of the past, primarily you are getting your storehouse of information from the very real present right now information from your physical environment. So when you talk about the difference of intuition versus sensing, and you say that sensors use their 5 senses in a very tangible way to pick out information within their physical environment, this is kind of primarily speaking to extroverted sensors who are doing this very, very actively. So because of that, they're actually very expressive to comment on what's happening in their real world present environment. They acknowledge it really quickly in real time, and they want other people to do so as well. Sign number 2 that you're an extroverted sensor is that you might get bored and restless very easily. So because your brain is so quick acting and so present focused, you're going to want to be on the move and taking action within the present moment. If you're in a place where you're stunted and you're not able to take quick present action, you're going to feel rather bored pretty easily, and you're going to want that constant feedback and constant input. That's where we get the stereotype that extroverted sensors are rather thrill seekers, and they really like high adventure because they thrive when they're getting a very high amount of feedback. So it doesn't necessarily have to do with courageousness or anything like that. It more so has to do with their love of getting constant feedback and wanting all of this input. So when they're in very high stress environments, they're receiving that constant input. If they're skilled within that specific thing, say that it is mountain biking or something that involves their whole body, their whole senses, they will feel like they are in flow within that moment and be very content. Sign number 3 that you're an extroverted sensor is that you're very in the moment. So you might actually have some trouble if people are asking you to reflect on your past. You may feel as though you don't have a very good memory, and you might find yourself saying that a lot. Or when you're reflecting on the future and trying to plan for the future, or someone is trying to get you to state your future intentions, that will actually be a high challenge for you because you're very used to being in the moment and in the present. So you will probably find yourself saying or thinking, how am I supposed to know what I'm doing in the future if I haven't done it yet? So you are so much in the present that you see action happening, then decisions happening after. And so you need to take that action first in order to have the feedback to then determine how you feel about something. Sign number 4 that you're an extroverted sensor is that quick reflexes often give you athletic tendencies. Now this one in particular, I think can really be off-putting for someone who is searching for their personality type and their best fit type, and they might have never participated in any sport whatsoever, and they don't really see themselves as a very athletic person, because athletics is often used in tandem with describing extroverted sensors, especially ESTPs or ESFPs ISFPs, they're expected to be very skilled athletes. Now, often that is the case because their quick reflexes allows them to really grow in skill really quickly. Life circumstances may not have led you down an athletic path, or your interest just didn't lead you down that way. So don't be too off put by this one, but know that your reflexes within something, even if it's something that you just enjoy doing with a group of people, say it's go-kart racing or bowling, you'll often find yourself rather skilled within that thing compared to the average public. So you will have more skill than you realize in certain athletic departments, even if you aren't a trained athlete. But a lot of very skilled and reputable athletes have been ESTPs and ESFPs because this extroverted sensing function allows them to pick up on feedback so quickly. Sign number 5 that you're an extroverted sensor is that you have a very good sense of direction. So because you're picking up things in your present environment, you have a very good sense of where you are. It's almost like this internal map in your brain, and you're able to remember exactly how to get places. It's a very practical thing for you. You feel a little bit confused that other people aren't necessarily like this, but you very naturally will be able to drive without a map, drive without directions, get somewhere based on the feedback that you've had of being in that place. So because you're so in tune with your environment, you're actually very aware of where you are within a certain space or within a certain city. So it doesn't take long for you to pick up on where you are, and then you just have this internal map that's running and able to tell you where to go. Sign number 6 that you're an extroverted sensor is that you notice physical changes in others. So because you're very observant and you notice things within your physical environment very quickly right now, you're actually probably going to be the first person to recognize a new hairstyle or style within someone else, or some kind of physical change with them. You actually read body movements and body language very well, and that can give you feedback to help actually feed your introverted intuition, which is for your dominant extroverted sensing users. Introverted intuition is going to be your inferior function. So all of this information within your present environment, as you're noticing it, is actually going to feed your gut instinct down further in your stack. So we can go further into the details of all of your cognitive functions later, but just know that you are very good and prone to pick up changes within other people and things in your environment. Sign number 7 that you're an extroverted sensor is that actions speak louder than words to you. So words mean an intention, and often those intentions speak towards future action, but because you're so much living in the present moment, the actual action will speak much louder to you than the intention of the future. Because for you, when you're doing something in real time, that is proof that you mean something. You mean something when you do it. Others may genuinely mean something when they say it, but you're not really going to believe it until you see the tangible proof that they have done that thing and that they truly mean it. Sign number 8 that you're an extroverted sensor is that you dislike being controlled. So because you're working so actively within your present environment, within the present moment, you're going to want full autonomy and full freedom to be able to make decisions in real time. If you're stunted in any way or you're controlled in any way, not allowed to move or make decisions in real time, you're going to be highly, highly frustrated by that because you're not allowed to actually work with your strengths or to lean into the thing that makes you so unique. So it actually really benefits extroverted sensing users if they're able to work within a space where they're given at least some level of autonomy to make decisions quickly within their present moment without having to receive a bunch of authorization from people above them. They do really well when they're in fields that are more independent and highly actionable within the present moment. Sign number 9 that you're an extroverted sensing user is that you learn through experience. So just like we were saying a few points back, extroverted sensing users will really need to do something in order to determine what they've learned, what their opinion is on something. They can't determine how they feel about something or what their future plan is for something until they have actually done that thing. So they will need to act first, think later. They're kind of the definition of this type and of the stereotype of even extroverts, that extroverts have to do and then they will feel, or then they will think and categorize and determine internally. Their extroverted process really needs to act in the real world before they can determine how they feel about something. Sign number 10 that you're an extroverted sensor is that you are a realist and you dislike the theoretical. So because you're so much in the present moment, you're going to trust facts, just like introverted sensing users. You're going to trust facts over inspiration. So you are going to pick up on what is the very real, tangible proof. Anything that is allegorical, you will tend to question and not really trust. So you prefer if you are given actual data, statistics, real proof, case studies, and that will help you determine the validity of something as opposed to something that is a little bit more theoretical in nature or something that requires imagination or future projection. That will be more difficult for you. You prefer to live in a very real world of the present moment. So more often than not, you will consider yourself a realist and you will feel uncomfortable with theoretical talk. So that is all 10 signs that you are either an introverted sensing user or an extroverted sensing user. I hope this was helpful if you're kind of between some of those types, because it really does draw a very definitive line between the judging sensor types and the perceiving sensor types. So if you have any questions at all or would like to dive further, please don't hesitate to email me at personalitycity@gmail.com. But for now, thank you so much for watching this video. I am so glad that you did, and I cannot wait to catch you on the next one.